Welcome to episode 46 of Basics and Beyond, the podcast. Why you're on autopilot and you probably don't even know it. In this episode, we talk about the concept and the actual space of being on autopilot during your day and how that can impact you, the good and the bad, because there are always two sides to the coin. There can be benefits and there can be downfalls. And in this episode, we talk about autopilot and your health. So come on in, join us, and enjoy the episode. Welcome to episode 46 of Basics and Beyond, the podcast. I'm Coach Laura, and this is a space where we get back to basics and the foundation of truly where we can build our health from, as well as where we can build that body composition that we want. Because ultimately, honestly, let's just be real. If we're working hard towards being healthy, we want to look like it too. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. We all want to look good, and we all have different definitions of that. So, in a space where there is so much information out there, there's like all these new things, the blingy, the shiny, the fancy, the protocol this, and the get rid of that food. And this is the absolute food you should eat. And the shots and the pills and the things. This is the space where we go, okay, let's push that aside. Let's look at what our foundation is and what are the basics of good health that are going to get us to, number one, be healthy, live a long life, that we can actually do things in and look good while we're doing it. So if you are new, welcome. I'm glad to have you here. And if you've been here before, thank you. Keep coming back. I love it. So today we're going to talk about something that really struck me earlier this week. A coach friend of mine, her name is Meryl. Shout out to Coach Meryl of Wicked Iron Strength. We created a new group option, which we call the Self-Sabotage Solution. And what we know and what we talk about in this group is self-sabotage really isn't self-sabotage. It's really not. It's not like you're setting out to undo the things or not do the things that you want to do, that you know you want to do. You have goals, you want to attain them, make progress towards them. And it's not like you're sitting back going, yeah, I'm just going to sabotage myself. That's not happening. That's not the goal. That's not what you're doing. What you're really doing is self-preservation. So in the group, we're kind of turning everything on its head and really getting to the nitty-gritty of why we know what to do, but we don't do it. We're bridging that gap. So we had our first meeting on Monday. And if that sounds interesting to you, by the way, you can still jump in. But we had our first meeting on Monday, and it was so amazing. You like the energy at the beginning of the meeting, you could tell like everyone was just a little bit nervous, a little bit unsure. And that whole first meeting really was about building a little bit of trust, a little bit of vulnerability, and getting to know each other, which is what we need to do. And it was great. And in that time, Katrina, she is in the group. She's amazing. She said something that in the moment, I wrote down on a piece of paper. I documented what time it was said. I created a reel about it because it was so, so powerful. And powerful in the way I always think about things that are powerful, not like, oh my God, it's momentous, but in the way that she stated something that I think every single one of us feels at some point or another, some of us more than others, or it happens to us and we're unaware of it. And that's what makes it powerful, is that it's so common and it's so normal and it's so, whoa, you just gave words to that thing. And we know words are powerful. And here's what she said. We were talking about something about, like just like mindlessly eating. And that's not what we said, but we were kind of talking about different situations we've been in. And she was saying how, and I'm using her words, she goes on, it's as if we go on autopilot and just give up control. And we need to get back to using our brains and actually thinking. And I went, holy shit. that, number one, is so powerful in the context of, kind of looking at food or using food or exercise to help us feel comfort, to help us feel safe, to distract us, whatever it is we need. And it is something that we do outside of health and wellness. Like, we can go on autopilot all ding dang day long, right? How many times have you kind of gotten to the end of your day and went, "Ooh, that was a long day. That was a lot." And then go, "Yeah, wait a minute. I don't even necessarily remember what I did. I don't really, like when my husband comes home, it's like, how was your day? My day was great. What did you do? I don't know. Or, yeah, I did a lot. What'd you do? Oh, give me a minute. I got to figure it out again. What did I do?" Because we just do. We see it in front of us. We know it has to be done, and we just do. Check the box, move on. Check the box, move on. And a lot of times we go on autopilot. Let's be truthful. The brain, physiologically, neurologically, we are set up, our brain is set up to do that because our brain takes a lot of energy. Our brain takes so much of our energy. It takes like 75% at least of the calories we put in our body. Like, seriously, our brain takes a ton of energy. And because of that, and because it's so dang smart, what it wants to do is create those neural pathways, right? I mean, you've heard of those things, right? It's like taking the same trail every single day. And the more you wear that path out, the easier it is, right? Like the first time you go down that trail, you're like breaking the sticks and jumping over rocks. And you're like, God dang, there's stuff everywhere on this trail. Go down that trail 100 times. Now you're starting to kind of beat back the weeds, and you've pulled some of those tree limbs away so that you can get through, and it's a little easier each time. It's always nice to be on more of think about it, mountain biking trail versus paved trail. I know mountain biking trails are super fun. I don't do them. They scare the heck out of me, unless I'm running, but on a bike, absolutely not. Paved trails, so much easier. You can just walk along, or you can even ride along on your bike. It's so much easier. So what your brain is trying to do is create those paved trails, those well-worn paths from one thought to the next, or one activity to the next, right? All those little neurons are firing, right? And so if your brain can create those really nice paved trails, it doesn't have to work so hard. That's why we say habits become routines, routines just become your lifestyle, because once they become routines, you don't think about them as much. That's what your brain wants to do. So if our brain can push us to autopilot faster and more often, the brain can do the other things it has to do. And think about that. What does your brain have to do all day? Everything. Your brain has to do everything. Your experience on life, everything in life, everything goes through your brain. Everything. So when you know how, like I was just talking about coming home and you're like, talking about your day, it's like, I did everything today. Did you though? Because your brain pretty much did more than your everything when you think about it. So in order for your brain to be able to do every single thing that it has to do, it does. I mean, thinking about it, it makes sense. It does have to create those really nice, smooth, easy to access neural pathways. Create those habits, create those routines. And sometimes the brain does that without us knowing it's happening, without us making a conscious decision, being very intentional about what that habit or that neural pathway is, like what's going on. And then we run into that autopilot, right? And what we were talking about on the call, and that Katrina so wonderfully kind of encapsulated for us, is that autopilot can be a good thing. That autopilot can be beneficial, like we just talked about, and it can be detrimental. So when we think about those habits and those times of autopilot where we're like, oh my God, why did I do that? Why did I just stand there and eat a whole sleeve of Pringles and not even pay attention to it. I don't even know if I tasted it, right? Why did I do that? Why did I do? And we start to beat ourselves up. There's a reason behind that. And maybe, I mean, I always think back to when I was in high school or junior high, right? I could eat anything. Friends would come over, we'd have a slumber party. It'd be like pizza and pop and ice cream and all the things, chips. And we just ate everything, right? Those formative years are where you learned coping mechanisms. You learned strategies that helped you get through, that helped you become the person you are, that really helped you feel safe and comfortable, probably in situations that sometimes don't feel very safe and comfortable. Even if, and I always say this, even if you had a great childhood growing up and everything was wonderful, it wasn't perfect for you. And here's why. We are the only animals on this planet that raise our children until they become adults, right? We are the only animals on this planet who have the brain capacity that we have, who have the freedom of choice like we have, who have all of these things, right? It's all that brain capacity that we've been talking about. And we're raising this child that came from us, who is another human being, who is a totally separate human being from ourselves. But now we're trying to raise them. And when they start to experience the world on their own, and they're like, I want to try this and I want to try that and I want to try, they have their own set of beliefs. They have their own set of values. They have their own sets of wants and needs. And we can't know that because we are not them, even though they came from us. So there's obviously going to be some pieces of being raised by another human being where we don't feel comfortable or it didn't fit so well for us. And we all have, differing degrees of that. And hey, guess what? I am a huge advocate for the second you become an adult, you take responsibility for that shit and you deal with it. Don't blame your parents. So I'm not blaming parents. Parents do the best they can. Well, mine did, right? However, and at the same time, going through that, you created these strategies that worked for us then. Think about it. When I was in my 20s, I did a lot of different kinds of training, workouts. Oh my God, in my 30s, I ran marathons and half marathons and all those things. And that worked for me then, whatever my goal was or however I wanted to feel. When looking back on that, I'm like, okay, that must have worked. I did it. I liked it. There were lots of benefits to that. Running that now wouldn't be beneficial to me, right? I've changed. Things have changed. I'm older. I'm different. I have different goals. All those things have changed. It's not going to work for me anymore. It's the same thing with our strategies that we have that, like I said before, we may not be aware of. Those habits may have just been created, those neural pathways, without us kind of cognitively understanding that we're doing it. And they may not work for us anymore. Maybe they work for us a little bit. Maybe they don't. We have to figure that out. And if we're on autopilot, we can't figure that out. And so when we come across those times of, I don't know why I did that. I can't believe I did that. I'm self-sabotaging. Why can't I stick to this plan? Why can't, all those things. And we start to beat ourselves up. If we took that energy and said, wait, stop, hang on. What's really going on? That is the beginning of turning off the autopilot. And I always tell people, and we talked about this on the call too, the first step in turning off autopilot and turning on our thinking brain is using our breath. So if you're feeling a certain way or you're reaching for something and you're like, I shouldn't be doing this, or I don't want to be doing this, or this isn't helping me this isn't serving me, it's not getting me to my goals. I have a certain plan. Why am I reaching for the Lay's potato chips, right? Or I'm not supposed to be doing extra cardio today. Why am I doing why do I feel like I need to do extra cardio? Because it always starts with a feeling. You know this. It always starts with a feeling. And then we go, feeling. Feelings aren't necessarily true. They are there, but they're not necessarily true. So when you start to get that feeling of, I'm going to eat the whole sleeve of, like, I'm going to grab the Pringles, right? It is when you notice it, stop, take a breath, maybe two, maybe three, just to recenter yourself. Your breath, number one, will always relax you. Number two, if you pay attention to the breath going in and your breath going out, not only does it relax you, it brings you back into your own body. Like you're turning off the autopilot. Now, in those 2 to 5 breaths, you have an opportunity. That's where you have an opportunity to turn your thinking brain back on and say, am I hungry? Do I need this? So you start to ask yourself those questions. So the objective then is to give yourself the opportunity to make a conscious or intentional decision, because maybe you still eat the Pringles. Maybe you don't eat the whole sleeve. Although, come on, think about it. It's Pringles. Really. If they're going to give you a sleeve of Pringles, that's like a single serving, right? Don't tell me 5 chips is a single serving. Not Pringles. I digress. Anyway, but just a little humor. I mean, but it's true. Here's the thing. In those moments, the conscious and intentional moment is what we're going for. And that's what we talked about on our first call. That's where that concept of being on autopilot versus using your thinking brain came up, because we were talking about how do we do, like, what? Like, where, how do we get from here to there? How do we get from I'm just eating whatever, or doing whatever, or training whatever, to wait, stop in the moment. What are my feelings, right? Instead of our feelings running us, we can say, whoa, let me take 2 breaths. Let me bring my central nervous system back online, calm it down a little bit so I can flip off the autopilot, not literally, right? Like hit the switch. That's what I'm talking about. Well, I mean, you can flip them off too if you want, but turn that switch, hit that switch and go, wait, I want to be in this moment. What am I doing? What do I need? That's the first step. 2 to 5 breaths, switch off the autopilot. That's important. And it's not just about, the food or whatever. I mean, you can use this at any point in your day. And now to bring it back around. At any point in your day, you can use this just to bring yourself back to present. That's really what happens when we are on autopilot. We are just going, kind of like that, squirrel on the wheel. And we're not really paying attention to the fact that we're not really going anywhere. We're just doing things. We're not really living life in the moment. We're just doing things. So to be able to go through your day and switch off autopilot sometimes, even just practice it, right? Sometimes it's good to be on autopilot when you're doing mundane things and whatever, right? It's not like you have to always be in your thinking brain and know and be conscious and make all these. No. If you are finding yourself more often than not on autopilot, especially when it comes to your health and your fitness, when you're just, and you're like, why do I keep sabotaging? I'm using air quotes, sabotaging myself. That's a great time to say, I think I'm on autopilot. Let me practice turning that autopilot switch off, and practice it during the day just for fun to see where you're at. Like check in with yourself, take 2 to 5 breaths. Am I on autopilot? Am I right here? What am I doing? Right? Because it's not about perfection. It's about practice. Practice gets you progress. And that's what we're always working toward. So a little amazing, wonderful learning opportunity. Some really great, powerful words and thoughts came from our Monday meeting. Remember, truly, self-sabotage is really about self-preservation. It's about going back to those things that help keep us safe and comfortable and make us feel okay. And most of the time, we're on autopilot when we do that. So this next week, think about that a little bit. When are you on autopilot? When do you notice, oh shoot, I'm not really here right now. That's autopilot. When you're feeling like, oh, what just happened? I'm not really here right now. And practice turning off autopilot. And the quickest way to do that, like I said, is to just give yourself 2 to 5 breaths. That's it. No expectation after that. No expectation after that. Like, right? If it comes to like the Pringles and you're like, I'm not going to have the Pringles. Have the freaking Pringles. It's okay. Go ahead. This is about just practicing switching off autopilot. And I have to thank Katrina because she's amazing. And I really had to come and talk to you about that today because it is something that I practice a lot. Because just like everyone else, I get caught up in the world and the things and the check the boxes. And half the time I'm like, am I really living life right now? And what's the point if you're not really living life right now? And I'm not saying go out and do crazy, fancy, whatever things like conquer the world. I'm saying living life in the moment. Are you right here? Can you feel your feet? Do you know where you're at? Turn off the autopilot for just a minute, or even just notice it. Give yourself 2 to 5 breaths to notice. That's the important thing. And that's going to help you make progress. And that's a building block of the basics, the foundation of being healthier. And that is something you can't get from the blingy, the shiny, the shot, the pill, the fancy protocol, right? That's something you can do for yourself without anyone else. And also, it's easier if you have other people to help you out. Truly, we don't get through this life on our own. So if you do have questions or you're like, oh, I want to try that and I want some feedback on it, reach out to me. You know where to find me: socials, Instagram, Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on TikTok. I have a website. You know how to get to a hold of me. Look, I'm right here. You can send me a message here. That's fine. And if you're interested in the cohort, that's what we do in the cohort. We support each other. We have great conversations, and we set some little goals and some targets to help us get healthier along the way. So there's a lot of conversation around thoughts and feelings and all of that kind of soft skill stuff that we marry with the small actions and the small steps and get some support with. So I hope you take this. I hope it feels as powerful to you as it did to me. It was amazing to be able to have those conversations and really think about, when am I on autopilot and when am I like, how am I checking back in with my thinking brain? It's powerful stuff. Like I said, if you have questions or thoughts, please let me know. And of course, if something comes up for you and you're like, oh, Laura, you should talk about this, or hey, I want to hear more about this, just reach out to me. I'd love to hear. This podcast is really for you. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, stories, and any ideas you have. I hope that you have, and I am wishing for you, an amazing, wonderful, healthy day where you are connected, you are grounded, and you are amazing. Talk soon.